him, the first incarnation of the band
Yeah.
was in 1991, I believe. You were like 14, 15 years old.
Around that, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So how would you describe yourself at that point?
I was into like Bad Brains and Jane's Addiction. I had, I guess, orange dreadlocks. I was skating, and I had just played my first paying gigs as a bass player. And I got like $20 and 3 pints of beer. That was my first fee.
That's not bad for back then. That's not bad for now, really.
It was great.
Yeah.
And, but that's how it all started. And then at the same time, I was playing bass with a lot of bands in Helsinki. Since that was my first instrument, and I was a huge fan, I still am a huge fan of Gene Simmons and Steve Harris and all those people. And yet I wanted to try to sing, and then, so we had the first hymn was me playing 6-string bass. I was doing all the guitar parts, like through guitar amplifiers. It sounded terrible, kind of like a cool idea at the time, but we couldn't find a guitar player, so I did that. And then Miguel, the guy who was still in the band, he was playing the bass, and then we had 2 other drummers, and we tried a couple of guitar players as well, but it wasn't professional in any, anyhow. We were doing a couple of 4-track set demos and whatnot in the garage, but it took a few years more for us to kind of start working on it a bit more proper.
Yeah, of course, with most bands, I would.
Yeah, sure.
Getting into the groove of it from
yeah,
high
and
school
also being
onwards.
pushed by the parents and stuff. You either got to start like really studying something proper to become something, and that's usually when you have to shut the door and practice your instrument a bit more.
Yeah, and I saw online that in the beginning stages you had 2 drummers at the same time. Is that right?
Well, kind of, yeah. To be honest with you, I can't remember that well. It was like, yeah, well, no, you might be. Are you talking about that was in school, the band that we had 2 drummers. The other guy that was a great drummer at rehearsals, but he was so scared of playing live that we needed to have another one who was a terrible drummer, but he wasn't like scared of audience.
So he was the session guy, basically?
Kind of, yeah. So, but not with him, it was a bit different. We just had 2 guys who showed up, when they had the time. Cool. It was one of those things, we were so young and there was many other things to do in life, so it wasn't, people weren't as intense about it maybe than I was with my 6-string bass and my orange dreadlocks. No wonder they didn't want to rehearse more. Imagine hanging out with that monster.
Yeah, and I think a good part of your formative years that a lot of people are fascinated by is your father's sex shop.
Oh,
and you working there. And I'm wondering, how did that play a part in shaping you as an individual?
Yeah, it shaped the bottom end.
The bottom end.
No, I don't think so. It's like my dad helped me out with the rent when I moved out. I think I was 17, or just turning 17, and he helped me out to find a little apartment, and then I had to, give back. So I went there to sell, vibrators and such, which was, it was just a job. It wasn't exciting or nerve-wracking. It was just a job, just something to do, something to pass the time with.
Would your friends kind of go by and be like really inquisitive about what goes on?
Yeah, but they were laughing about it. Good friends would come there because it was a good excuse to hang out in a temple of pornography. So I thought that was more like it was more fun than something that we would have been ashamed of.
Yeah, so no weird shit happening with friends.
Not really.
It's a classy joint. Sounds like.
Yeah, and one of the only things in life, in this whole world that does, we do have something in common. Religion aside and stuff, but we do have like peckers and stuff.
That's very true. So they say that you have your whole life to write your first album, and for him, going from 1991, 6 years later, you've got Greatest Love Songs. Volume 666. So for that, what pieces of your life did you throw into that album's material?
To be honest with you, it takes a lot of time for a band to find their own sound, and it's, gig a bit.
Yeah.
And it's really tough to find gigs when nobody knows you and you haven't recorded an album. So that's the tough part. So we're playing all sorts of little parties. We could get Miguel's big brother. He owned a bar. Was like the co-owner of a club in Helsinki, and a bar. So we were able to kind of like squeeze our way in to play a few shows, here and there, even though people didn't want to see us. But it is very different for a band when they get the adrenaline in your body. You know, it changes the perception of your own music as well. And at that time, and you need to see the audience to be able to make the right calls arrangement-wise and tempo-wise, you know.
Yeah.
It might be just a couple of beats per minute here and there, but that makes all the difference how people's hips sway or if they don't. So that's important, and that's something you can't do these days anymore because people are recording all the gigs. Back in the day, they weren't. There was no cell phones with cameras or whatnot.
No.
It's those old Nokia bricks, you know. They're really cool these days, though.
You put it in a suitcase and you carry it around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
with the cocaine.
Yes, perfect.
DeLorean type stuff.
Yeah, 88 miles an hour.
Exactly.
So up until this point, him kind of had somewhat of a rotating line of members.
Sure.
You and Linda were the...
And Miguel.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Miguel did leave for a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, I was going through the, what do you call it, military service.
Really?
You have to do in Finland, it's like, 8 months, 9 months. So it was away because of that.
Oh, wow.
And, but we were still searching. So that was time and a bit of hassle. And also, again, I think that it's a fine line when a band becomes an obsession and when it becomes a job as well. Kind of like something that should be taken a bit more serious. It's really tough to find, let's say, 5 people who would be as into in having a band and really spending time. You know, for a lot of people, it's just a cool way to get drunk or just do something different or again kill the time. So that's usually how a lot of bands have the trouble the first years or the first months.
Yeah,
it's more everybody's searching for themselves, not just the sound. It's just also just to hang out together and be in a small van together and see if you really can stand each other's farts or not, because that's very essential. You know?
In the beginning, especially, obviously, and you can't just make music with anyone, especially when you're writing original stuff and you're trying to take it seriously.
Yeah, but then again, you can't take it too seriously. At the same time, you have to sort of like, and that's the tough part, you know, to know when to cry and when to laugh. You know? We still don't, but you know.
Well, I think that's a good dynamic of what him really is: the crying, laughing, the good and evil, bad and good.
Well, it remains to be seen. It's not over yet.
No, thankfully. And after Greatest Love Songs comes out, songs actually begin to chart for you guys. Mm-hmm. You guys have When Love and Death Embrace hits the chart. Your Sweet 666 hits the chart. When you start to see that success in your home country start to happen, how does that feel?
We had a bit of success before. Our demos were played on the radio and stuff because we knew the DJ. So
okay.
You know, it's a small scene. It's always a small scene.
Okay.
At the end of the day, so and we were from, you know, everybody was from Helsinki, which is the capital city, which is the city where all the rock stuff happens and all the clubs that matter are. You know, I'm probably gonna get beaten because I said that, but you know, who gives? And
then, you know, the album is heavily conceptualized with the 666 theme. You know, the album is 66 minutes and 6 seconds long. Yeah. It contains 66 tracks, fills up 666 megabytes of data. I think I brought this up to you when you were here last time, and you were kind of like me when I was young with the 666s.
Well, no, you got to remember that was the time. Hold on, when did the album come out?
Was that 97?
97. So that was the time, right at the time when the churches were burning in Norway, and they called it the Black Circle, which never kind of existed, kind of like satanic underground in Norway, Sweden, and also in Finland. There was a lot of, you know, it was in the news. Yeah. It started to spread over to the music press. There's this crazy bunch of people looking like penguins and burning out churches. And
a great black metal folklore that just kind of
keeps and it going. Started, you know, and it was really exciting at that time. It was something new, and it was kind of like the punk rock, I guess. You know, I never saw the original punk rock happen, but it was something that people was kind of scared of. And we went to see Impelled Nazarene, the Finnish band. They were great, and they played a club, which we regularly play in Helsinki as well. And it was right in the middle of the whole shebang with all the different, you know, the true Norwegian black metal is way more true than the Finnish whatever metal.
Yeah.
So there was actually fights at the gig, you know, between the supporters of each, you know, clique or whatever, and it was odd.
Did it get
really
so
odd. I think that the stuff, you know, the 666 that came from that and Dario Argento and and
yes.
then the Here's to My Sweet 666 from what the American Preacherman claimed, that when you listen to Stairway to Heaven the other way around, it says something like that. And I thought that that's, in that case, it's traditionally rock and roll, because Aleister Crowley, the whole lineage, the Zeppelin thing, there's always been the play with the occult.
Yeah.
And usually tongue firmly in cheek, there's a lot of humor. It's not, like everything in life, it's not super, super serious, but it's intriguing. And it makes the imagination, jump hoops. So, and that's what we all want, right? But it wasn't there to offend anybody, because we're not from religious families, and in where we come from, it's not a big deal. Then we started touring for the first time, and somewhere in between 96 and 98, we toured in the Bible Belt area of Finland. And that was really odd, because we had audiences that maybe, let's say, 1,000 people or whatever in the middle of nowhere, and you had like 500 of them wearing the black metal regalia, then 500 of them like having their eyes closed and praying, holding Bibles. And there we were, huge fans of Black Sabbath and Type O Negative, just playing Wicked Game with distorted guitars. It was pretty surreal in that sort of sense.
Are they kind of trying to will you away, these religious types?
To be honest with you, I don't know, but it was really odd. And then it turned into at some point, the black metal people, or whatever, what you don't want to call them, the Penguins, they started showing up at the gigs and started spitting on us. So they spat on us. So it was also funny, because I was also always wondering, why would you spend the money and the energy to come to somebody's gig who you hate just to be able to spit on them? I find it really odd. I'd rather spend that 20 euros or like 28 bucks on like the best of Emperor or something like that.
Yeah. Are you sure they hated you?
Or get yourself a life or whatever.
Sometimes when people spit at the band, it's like a sign of respect.
But that was punk rock, right?
That was more of a punk rock thing, yeah.
In this case, it wasn't. I'm fairly sure.
I'll take your word for
it. It was really colorful, and it was like, it was interesting. We were kind of like in between, and then because of the church burnings were going on and blah 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 blah, I met at one point we don't have an organized satanic, like the LaVeyan satanic sort of church thing where we come from, but they were trying to put one together, and one of the head guys was one of my mates from pub. And then he wanted me to tell publicly that we don't have anything to do with the Satanic Church of Finland, because our songs do not represent what the Satanists believe in. So we were like falling in between the cracks like all the time. So like Jehovah's Witnesses couldn't stand us, the black metal people were spitting on us, and the Satanists, they were like, we're not true. And here again, we were still just playing Wicked Game.
Moving on to Razorblade Romance, this one right there.
Oh yeah, the pink one.
Yeah, you can see the heartogram on there a bit. So a lot of bands say that the second album is the hardest one to make. Do you feel like that was the case with you?
Oh yeah, it was terribly hard, because we kicked Batka, the drummer of the first time. We kicked him out. I can't remember why. I think it was one of those things that people wanted to spend more time in a bar than at the rehearsal place. I don't know. That happened later on to me, but many years later. But so there was we were going through a lot of changes. We made some demos and tried different things out, and nothing seemed right. And then we got offered for our first tour our second tour in Germany, whatever. Our first international tour, let's put it that way. It might be wrong, but that's how I remember it. And we didn't have a drummer, so there was another Helsinki band who just split called Kyria, Kyria, and I knew Gas, the drummer from the band, and so we asked him if he'd be able to play those 10 gigs, and then he jumped ship, and then he joined the band, and then through him being such a lovable, a great character, he just like injected this new energy into us, or whatever you want to call it. We had some boost from somewhere, and then all the songs that sounded terrible when we had demoed them. Started sounding really good, and then we re-demoed them, and then we found John Fryer, the producer, who'd been working with Nine Inch Nails on Pretty Hate Machine, who'd produced Stabbing Westward. Stuff just happens. There's no like, there's no secret handshakes involved. You just go in and do what you do, and hope that you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Of course, there's the famous story of that record, Razorblade Romance, that's the one that Bam Margera, he first bought that one. I think he heard Right Here in My Arms on TV. It topped some sort of top 10. And
in Helsinki, I think. I think he was doing like a skate demo in Helsinki, and it got played a lot on radio or TV or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how he bought it, and then he took it back to the States, and then he fell in love with it, and then he ended up, I think he was doing another skate demo somewhere in the UK, and then he came to our gig and knocked on our backstage door, or dressing room door, and then that's how we met, and that's how we became friends, slowly but surely after that.
Yeah. Razorblade Romance, I mean, songs from this record, it's getting put into Jackass, it's getting put into the CKY videos. More people are getting turned on to it. Bam is really pushing it to America. People are falling in love with your music. Mm-hmm. At this point, do you feel like you're beginning to taste a bit of fame?
It was probably before, because because back in '99, the German record company asked us if we would have a song for a movie called 13th Floor. No, this 13th Floor Elevators is like a Rocky Erickson band. What's the movie called? 13th Floor. Maybe it's just 13th Floor. But I like this sci-fi film that they released at the same time as Matrix, and then it flopped. But anyway, they were in search of a song for it, for the German edition, and the only song we had ready was Join Me in Death. Mm-hmm. And the record company hated it, but they had the opportunity of pushing it into the film, so they thought that they'd do it anyway, because they have a song and it's a film, so it's a good public, good for everybody anyway. And but then for some reason it didn't do anything for about a couple of months, and then all of a sudden it went #1 in Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Finland, and blah 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 blah. And the album hadn't been out yet, so that was quite odd for us. We didn't have any money or whatnot, and we heard they was #1 and they were celebrating like, in Germany, having like we could hear the Cristal bottles popping, and we were in a bar with me and Miguel and trying to get like one little beer together so we could celebrate
a bit of money.
Yeah, and that's so that's how it happened. And then after that, we were in the German version of Top of the Pops, like a big like hit TV chart show. We were there like several times that year, amongst all like really poppy acts, and so we got that sort of fame. But also when you are recognized, that's also the moment when everybody's interested in what you do, and they all want you to perform in their shows and at their gigs and at their weddings and at their whatnots, and you're bombarded with so much work that you don't realize what you're doing until after many years afterwards. So you don't think about things in terms of fame.
Okay.
You just go
with the blinders.
Yeah. That's the only way to do it anyway. Why should you look back?
At this point,
if God would have meant us to look back, then our heads would be the other way around, right?
I like that.
Cool.
I like that quote. Write that down. Get it tattooed somewhere on you, on your forehead, even. At this point,
which forehead? Sorry. At that time, Jackass wasn't known in Europe at all.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a big deal that it had already been here or becoming like big. For me, it was just a cool dude to hang out who loved Turbonegro, the Norwegian punk band, and who skated. I used to skate. We had a lot of like similarities. Then he loved what we did. Then it was just, we were like a match made in hell, good bar hoppers or whatever you want to call it. So we didn't think about it in terms of like hanging out with celebrities or whatnot. That became later. That happened later.
So is that maybe during the Deep Shadows and Brilliant Highlights era, where Jackass started to go overseas, and like the movie, had been released, I think, already, and your music is all over the place. Is it maybe?
We were at the opening. We were at the premiere, and Bam had invited us to be at the premiere. I was with a lighting technician, out of all people, there in the UK. It was a good party. It was staying at. Yeah, it was Steve-O, and it was trying to knock. They were trying to knock down the door of like Jennifer Lopez or one in the middle of the night. We were staying at the same hotel,
Oh my
It
god.
was funny. And then remember the UK band, The Darkness?
Oh yeah, love the darkness.
Yeah, they've played, this is the first time I saw them. They played the after show. MTV held an after show for the film. And they played there before they were signed, I guess. They played Get Your Hands Off My Woman.
Okay, yeah.
And stuff like that.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, motherfucker. Yeah. So, a lot of good memories. It was
Yeah.
fun. And then it was fun. That was our first Taste of Fame, actually, because I remember walking out from the Metropolitan Hotel in London. There was like shit tons of people with cameras outside. They weren't there for us. They were there for for like some movie stars or whatever. But that was great. Things went so well with Razorblade Romance that obviously what it does to a young guy, in their 20s, whatnot, it makes you feel invincible and it makes you feel very sure of what you do and incredibly selfish. So obviously we thought as a band that we can't go wrong, that we just write a new album and sell like, hotcakes. And which kind of happened. but also at that time, because Razorblade Romance was an album that nobody was really, well, let's say the industry wasn't expecting that to be such a hit that it was. It meant that now there was like 17,000 different A&R people from the record companies and different whatnots in the studio, and everybody had an opinion. That was like, it became really, really frustrating. and then we ended up working on the album for about 11 months. So it was a long time, and we were touring in between. Nobody, we started out with a song that sounded like kind of like Queens of Stone Age or something, and then it turned out sounding like something totally different 11 months later, because we were just so bored of a song already that we just kept on like switching it over. And then John Fryer, who came into our help and mixed a few songs, he said that we should have recorded the whole album from scratch again, just at the very end, because you so easily, as a band, you lose the sound of an album, and the sound of five guys being in the room together. That's sort of like, I don't know what to call it, a magic.
Were you guys kind of second guessing yourselves? And
yeah, I guess so. But I think that's pretty too, and that's beautiful and endearing. Having insecurities recorded on tape for the whole world to see is pretty cool.
That's interesting.
Kinda.
Is that the first time you feel like that was put on tape? Insecurity?
No, there has to be some percentage of it on each and every album, I guess. A bit of you have to be a bit naive. If you're a musician, that's sort of like blue-eyed.
Yeah.
And gotta be a kid in a candy store whenever in the studio, sort of thing, or writing a song or whatever.
Yeah. Well, this is the first album with the current lineup.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So when you're in the studio, are things starting to click in a way that they hadn't before?
No, that happened with Love Metal. Burton, who joined the band, he played only a few songs on Deep Shadow and Brilliant Highlights. Okay. I played some of the really bad organs and whatnot there. But it was like we were like in this situation of all this states of eternal change. Like we didn't know what's going to happen next week, and like producers were flying in, and it was confusing. So I think that afterwards, the touring that album, that's kind of like that made us gel, as a band a bit more,
Cool.
Because when you see your good friends kind of like being, because you're pushed and you get stressed out and you're not given enough time to maybe rest, and how you deal with that being young is that you party more, and then at some point there's like bang your head into a wall, and then you gotta, I don't know. It's interesting, but I think that everybody has to at some point go through that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You never know what's enough until you know what's more than enough.
Is this looking back? Is this the point where maybe the partying is getting a little out of control? Maybe you're not partying for the right reasons.
Partying got out of control like a decade earlier.
Okay, so it was always kind of.
Yeah, but we're Finnish. It's very cold during the winters. You gotta get drunk.
Children of Bodom will tell you that.
Yeah, exactly.
Very true.
Same idea. And us more than them, because we play so slow songs that that physical movement doesn't keep us warm. That's probably the reason why they bang their heads so much. They don't need so much booze.
Wow, to challenge Children of Bodom to a drinking contest, that would be dangerous.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's very true. Actually, yeah. I've been out with Alexia, I think, once. That didn't turn out to be good.
Okay. So next comes Love Metal, definitely one of your most famous albums, kind of a trademark album, a fan favorite, absolutely. In your life, how have you taken pieces of your life and put it into this record?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. I remember, I wrote most of the lyrics and stuff while I had high fever. I was running in late. I'm just trying to pick fragments in here and there, just like how it was done. I had the riff for Better Love, I Love It So Simple. I had that down on tape from our PA rehearsals when we had been touring with, I think, already Razorblade.
Yeah.
So we had that stuff there. It's one of those great mysteries of rock and roll, but you don't know how it happened. I can't remember much from the studio or anything like that, but we recorded the album in Helsinki, and it was just an album to make.
Yeah. So then love metal kind of became the genre of your music.
Yeah, but it was like automatic. We were so sure of ourselves. We knew we had to kind of after what we considered a failure with Deep Shadows and Brilliant Highlights, because there was so many, chefs in the kitchen.
Gotcha.
We wanted to be a band that we control what we do and everybody else can fuck off.
Yeah.
That was very important for us, and that's the reason for the hologram in the cover too, and the kind of the statement of intent. That was musically, visually, and ideologically. That was a great time with the band, because I think that everybody was, really breathing the same air. We were really close, after all that touring, and maybe after the hassle and the stress of after Deep Shadows, the kind of hangover after Razorblade Romance, or whatever you want to call it. It kind of sobered us up a bit, then afterwards, and then we really wanted to push and flex the muscle and show people that we're a good band, and also that was Deep Shadows was the first album that we toured with in the UK. Okay. Nobody could give flying fuck who we were in the United Kingdom, and that pushed us to want it more, because a lot of our idols like Sabbath and Zeppelin, those people, they come from there. So for us it was like traveling to Mecca, going to Birmingham for the first time. Similar to what happened when we came here with love metal, afterwards, being able to play Whiskey A Go-Go, a place like that we'd only heard about and read in books. So in that sense, that's my favorite album, because that was so clearly. It's not saying that all the songs would be great, but the mood and how it was given birth was, five guys really, like the Pearl Jam 10's cover with music like that, sort of similar, sort of team effort, that it happened organically, and everybody seemed to have energy and want and need to do so, and that's rare to be able to have that in life in general.
Sure.
Team sports are tough.
Well, then, when you do come to the U.S. for the first time, are you surprised by how many people are actually coming out to the shows? Because we had been exposed to your music for a pretty long time at that point.
Yeah, it was weird. We did back, I think, with Deep Shadows and Brilliant Highlights. We did play the Trocadero in Philadelphia once. There was Bam had some party for CKY.
Okay.
And then so we supported them, and that was a week before the towers fell here in New York City. Wow. So we were really close to this, and we did promo, and then we flew from here to Europe. We were in Madrid when the towers fell. So we were here really and that was my first time in New York City, so.
Oh boy.
So we were close to that stuff too. But yeah, so after that it took a while. It took that album, Love Metal, for us to come back here. And it was, we didn't know what to expect. We didn't think about it too much. I think that's also one of the reasons I can't remember too much of it, The tour, the buses are different, the audiences are different, the clubs are really different, the language is different, So I've just been used to Scottish accents, and all of a sudden you have your Midwestern drawl. I was like, what the hell is going on? It's very
intense.
different.
It's really intense.
It can be. No, but it's this is a big country with many beautiful things in it, and it takes, it's just you're in awe when you trying to suck it all in for the first time, what the hell's going on? And especially being in a band where you're playing, let's say, 5 nights in a row, each in different city, maybe in different states, and then you have one day off in the middle of nowhere, and then off you go again. It's quite intense.
So Dark Light.
Yeah.
The album title was inspired by a book of the same name. It's also inspired by Greek mythology, Dante's Divine Comedy. Are you eating books at this point in your life?
No. I only eat a few, but I eat them well and thoroughly and chew them to the very end.
Yeah.
No. as a guy who writes songs, I get excited about an idea or a book or a sentence. I don't necessarily get excited about the whole of Tolkien. I just get excited about Uruk-hai.
Okay.
Just a little detail that just makes my imagination, work, overdrive or faster or harder. I don't know why the Dante thing happened. No idea. The Dark Light, the book, was just partly the reason for it. Dark Light, my last name being Valo, is light.
Oh,
so Bimea Valo, Dark Light, would also, in translation, it would mean that I'd be mad.
Oh, okay.
So it would mean that too. So kind of like it can be translated directly, but it was that book, and my mum told me about that book. So it's back again to the mum and my parents and stuff and all that stuff, which I always think it's cool to to remember and honor your parents in rock and roll, which a lot of people don't do, besides the good old Elvis Presley. But
yeah.
But yeah, and the albums, it was kind of magical as well, and that because. What we didn't mention throughout Love Metal was that Love Metal was the last album for our first record label. The whole game changed because all of a sudden our center of operations wasn't Germany anymore. It was New York City.
Okay.
So that changed the whole vibe in a cool way. It made us it made everything new and shiny and new and kind of like a virgin sort of a thing.
That's because Madonna was on Sire too. So there you go.
Depeche Mode was on Sire.
Yeah, I mean
Dinosaur Jr. was on Sire.
Ministry, and of course
Ministry
the Ramones.
Too, yeah.
And you guys did a cover of Poison Heart, which I thought was really, really good because that song almost
I think it's underestimated.
Was that
the original song is like underestimated?
Oh, absolutely.
It's just like
that's a Dee Dee song, and
all the Dee Dee songs has this heart of darkness in them.
Absolutely.
They're really kind of dark. All of them, it was an exciting song to make, and especially because the hand claps are by Seymour Stein and Michael Goldstone.
Really?
Yeah, it took like 4 hours for them to. So if you're on a budget, if you're on a tight budget, never ask A&Rs or the heads of companies to clap hands on your records. No, it was funny. It was great. They're great people. So it was a fun process.
Great. That Poison Heart song almost sounds more like a hymn song than a Ramones song, like in the first place, I think.
Okay.
It's like so gloomy and dark, but that's Dee Dee for you,
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Way doomier and darker than we ever will be,
Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah. For someone like him. Troubled guy.
Indeed.
But a legend. Wings of a Butterfly on this record. A little poppier, very full and nice. Then you got Killing Loneliness, which is about Bam's friend, Brandon Novak, and his heroin troubles, I believe.
Yeah. Well, it was partly about that.
Okay.
I never write about just one thing.
Okay.
And let people know about it. It was one of the reasons,
Anything else in particular, or is...
No. It's just like the many ways of how people kill. How they kill their loneliness and with what. And it's a love song. It's about killing your loneliness with love, and physically killing. I like the I don't know what it's called in English, but when you turn an idea into a physical being,
an entity.
Yeah, well, when it metamorphosizes into an entity, a physical entity, how would you treat it? So personification is the right word,
Okay.
So personification of loneliness, and how you would treat it when you're actually so tired, frustrated, after many a sleepless year, how you'd want to handle that goddamn loneliness. And so that I'm a confused fella. I still am. So they are confusing lyrics for me too. Maybe that's one of the reasons some people can relate to them.
Well, I think that segues really well into Venus Doom because
that's one of my favorite albums.
Yeah? Heavier, gloomy, very inspired by tragedy. I mean, I feel like in this one you can hear a lot of pain in the record. And is this during the period where your battle with addiction has kind of hit its peak?
No, I just dabbled. I was never addicted. No. A lot of things drink a lot, and I was drinking a lot, and I think the trouble, happened because I'd be working too much, drinking too much, and I had a relationship that went south at the same time.
Okay.
That's regular stuff for a lot of people. If you have No, a lot of negative stuff happening in your life at the same time, and you don't have the time to deal. You just have to wing it somehow and improvise and try to get to the next, hopefully a better day. And then you don't see the better day, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. But you still have that little bit of optimism within you, so you just want to go forward.
Yeah.
And you're running out of juice, and you don't know what to do. And to get that on Malm is an achievement. So
Yeah.
then I ended up in rehab afterwards.
Yes.
But
yes.
so but it's. I think the biggest fight was in my head, not with the bottle or not with anything else.
I think
it's just a combination of circumstances. The relationship thing. People usually, if relationships is important to you, and at the same time you have a job and you have a passion. I was working in the music, and we had to tour, and everybody's responsible. I'm responsible for the rest of the guys, and I wasn't feeling too good. And then at the same time, was sadomasochistic enough to kind of like enjoy the moment because it was so real. So I was able to put all that into the music. But then, like, how deep do you want to cut the wound? To
show
to all of a sudden then realize that you have to call an ambulance.
Yeah. Is there ever a time where you think, I want to give all of my pain to these people, but you go a little too far, and you've given so much of yourself that you feel like you don't have anything left?
No, there's always more where it came from. Yeah, I think that's an endless well.
Thing,
yeah. No. I think it's the same for everybody. It's not about. It's about it's about the mental flashing of sorts of like. Just letting go, just as like psychologically saying things you've kept, if you say them to a person, all of a sudden you feel so relieved.
Yeah.
It's the same with singing stuff to a person, or to kind of like singing to yourself, using the music or the album as a mirror.
Yeah.
Because if you keep thoughts in and you never like fully form them as sentences and fully form them as full formed ideas, it's like playing with fire, sort of a thing.
Sure.
We all have to dabble, and we all have to go a bit crazy and wild, and what's not to love about? We're all little pyromaniacs, all of us, more or less.
On to Screamworks.
Yeah.
Love in theory and practice. So you're out of rehab by this point. Did that experience change you or affect the way that the album sounded or its lyrical content?
Well, it made the process a bit different because I kind of like. Because that was the first album I've ever done sober, like fully sober. Not saying that all the albums before would have been done wholly under the influence, But
okay, yeah.
So they were like. But anyway, I took that as my main idea, mentally how to get through it was to put all the energy I can to rehearsals, and we rehearsed so much more than we've ever have, and to a certain extent it was terrible, and to a certain extent it was really rewarding. But I think it wore a lot of guys out. Like Gas was having troubles with it because you have to remember that that was the time when Gas had the first kid, got married, I guess, and stuff, and everything happened at the same time. Then you're rehearsing tons and then traveling to the States to work and blah. It's not just the rock for the guys in the band. So it was confusing times, I guess. But a couple of good songs, and then, for example, this song called "Disarm Me" with Your Loneliness. I'd written it like 2001, right after Razorblade Romance, but
really?
I never had it like finished. There was something missing, and so there was a couple of those songs I really enjoyed that we were able to, put to bed, so to speak. Those old songs.
I think
have been around forever.
Yeah, I mean, Disarm Me, I heard recently that Bam Margera believes that song is about him.
All right, good for him. What would I want Bam Margera to disarm me with my... Oh Lord, come on now.
He thinks that it was about a past relationship of his that I guess you witnessed not go as well as he planned.
No, I think it was... No, I think he takes way too much credit. Things are more simple than they usually are, So I think it's a pretty straightforward love song. I loved Mazzy Star, who didn't when She Hangs Brightly and all that stuff came out.
I mean, throughout Screamworks, I mean, you can just hear a lot of heartbreak, I think, in that record, and you can.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, you could shows with Heart Killer, Scared to Death, and that lyric, I'm scared to death to fall in love with you. Tracks Dying Song, Love the Hardest Way. Do you feel like that was a album that was a more direct approach to heartbreak?
No, it's just, I think it was just maybe clearer in lyrics. It wasn't so hidden away, maybe. It was a bit more straightforward, which was because the music was a bit in your face as well. It was kind of like, because it was the what was it called? The Venus Doom has this Mandarin kind of odd, how would I put it, like this mystical aspect to it. It was hard to grasp, and it was kind of you couldn't really put your finger onto it. And then you easily, when you have toured an album like that, you don't want to do the same again, so you want to do something completely different. That was then Screamworks. So we wanted to have it be kind of like ADD in your face and grab you by the throat all the time, 24/7, and that's why the lyrics are a bit more direct as well.
Right. Yeah. Well, with Tears on Tape, looking at some of your very recent set lists, you guys are playing a ton of the album, like almost we're like almost all of it sometimes. Like,
tomorrow we're not playing. We're playing one song.
Just one? No. Well, from playing so much of it, was this an album that you were especially proud of, like compared to past ones, that you really want to get out there and show everyone this is us right now?
I think that after each and every album for a band, you have to be super proud of what you do, and it takes a long time for you to be able to reflect and look back and figure out if it actually had any merit, any good ideas whatsoever, a decent song or two or whatever. It takes a lot of times it takes years.
Yeah.
So, and then you kind of like, the coolest thing is to be proud of your old work again, like Venus Doom, for example. I wouldn't want to go through making the album again, but I'm really happy that we did. It was great learning. It was a great lesson in humanity for myself, at least. But yeah, well, Tears on Tape, yeah, it was important, and kind of, it was important for our band to all of a sudden prove to ourselves that we're still a band that can play and that can have a good time, and it's not over yet because of all the mishaps with gas and blah. So that was important, and yeah. And we're still kind of on the same tour. We started it when the album came out a year and a half ago, and we haven't stopped. So now with the Boxy thing is coming out, it's again for us time to look back or further back and bring some older gems into the set. And then when it's 2015, I'm gonna turn my cell phone off for a while and pick up the acoustic guitar and figure out where the muse leads me next time around.
Awesome. So we've arrived at the present.
Yes.
Finally. So.
Quite a journey it was.
Quite a journey.
Hopefully not super boring.
No. I've had a blast doing this, really. And
that's good.
And going from beginning to now.
Yeah.
How would you describe yourself now, just as a person?
You mean how would I describe the change from what I was, or? Not much, to be honest with you, not much, and that's the coolest part of it all. I don't consider myself any better or any worse than I was, just a bit more worn out. It's interesting because we got to do what we got to do out of love for doing it. That's the only reason to do it, and at the same time keep ourselves on our toes, make it challenging and exciting, because same old would just be repetitious in that it'll just wear everybody out. And the audiences too. So it's like, how far can you go? So it's like spicing up shit in bed. I guess it's like not shit, per se, but maybe I should like figuratively go back to my dad's shop and find some spices for our love metal.
Huh. Yeah. So love metal's still absolutely a term that you identify with even today.
I think it's so idiotic that it suits us fine.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Good to be in touch with oneself.
Oh, you got it. There's no way. There's no escape.
I gotta thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you,
the
sir.
handshake, of course.
And thank you, whomever is going to be editing this shit.
It's gonna take a while, but it'll be worth it. Him.
Oh, blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, box set, first 4 albums,
That's
2 of
it.
which are right here.
And the
Pick it
first
up.
EP.
First EP as well. Thank you so much.
Live long and prosper.
Ville Valo, everybody.